Hello there, Patricia here. Super excited again to be able to show up yet another day. Especially since I had been under the weather for, oh my God, it seemed like forever. So I'm glad to be able to show up. Still a little raspy, but it's all good. Today I want to talk a little bit about um, the importance of being flexible with your plan because trust you me, I've absolutely had to be flexible with my own plan over the course of the last couple of weeks. And but before we get into that, let's make sure you hit the thumbs up, the like button, and or subscribe so that we can push things out to the YouTube algorithm world, and also be able to share this conversation with others um, who might be able to benefit from it. So here's the thing. I am a planner. I've always been the planner. I am that person. I have loosened up over the years, I'm proud to say. But every once in a while, that like strict, plan girl comes out of me. But it's also funny because I'm also very creative. So there will be these sparks of moments where I'll just kind of go off and be like, all right, I'm not a total go with the flow girl. Don't get me wrong. I'm not that person. There's always a plan. There's always a strategy. I'm definitely still always the strategy girl, but learning to be more flexible with the plan, I've learned over the years, both sometimes the hard way and other times it's like you just have no choice. And so what I've found is really important is to lay out a structure that works for you, and I've learned how to adapt it based on working with other coaches of my own or other teachings that I've read, and learning how to adapt things so that they work for me and being okay with that. Because that's one of the first things. You can go take someone else's structure or plan for how things should be. And then when you get tired and you're frustrated and you're like, why is this not working? It's because it's not yours. It's because you took something from someone else and tried to implement it as is without adapting it to your own life. And so that's the finesse, the massaging that comes along over the course of the years. And I think I've gotten pretty good at it. And if nothing else, definitely getting better about not reverting about not reverting back to hardcore. Well, this isn't the plan, and what's wrong? Why are the things not following this? Because I worked in the legislature for 20 plus years. On any given day of a legislative day, things could absolutely go off the rails. So that is another reason why I've learned to be adaptable and be flexible with a plan, because that was just the nature of the work that I did as well. And it's weird because you can know that, okay, that could go off the rails for that over there, but here's still my plan. And so it's when things really start creeping into even your own plan, of how you'd want things to go, that it's like, well, what in the what is going on here? And so that's what I encourage. So, for me, moving from working for other organizations, 9 to 5, 8 to 11, because there were days, I mean, there were long hours there, to creating space for myself when I went out on my own. Like, I had to create that structure, right? Because it is a huge difference from going in and working for someone else and meeting their expectations each and every day to just for yourself. I don't care about you having clients or if you have an office that you're going into, you still have to create the structure. There's no one there that you're quote reporting to. You are it, right? And so creating what you want that to look like is really important. And then as things, and it's funny because when that first happens, of course, the natural thing you do is to build it out to look like the structure from which you came, right? And then you realize either that doesn't work or it doesn't have to apply, and then you start massaging it. And so down through the years, from moving from an office uh, environment full of people to one where it was just me, to then working from home, which I've done for years now. I worked a little bit again in an office environment when I had some partners, and we had a space, and then we gave up that space. I think that went on for about 3 years, and then when once I came home from that, I just kept it, and I kept trying to go back into an office space, and I realized, nah, I'm good. And that was before the pandemic hit, and so once the pandemic hit, I'm like, I'm totally over it. And but that did not mean that there wasn't a need for some type of structure to work within, right? And to set that up for myself. So I can't remember where I first, oh, it's escaped me. I've been doing this so long. But I through some reading and some planning and stuff like that, I adapted a schedule for myself where I would try to make each day um, focus on a particular thing. So for, let's say, for example, Mondays would be admin day, right? I would, recover from whatever was going on the weekends. Um, Especially when my kids were younger, were around and running me all over town with things. And so Mondays would be a good day to catch up, get some administrative stuff done. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays would be client days for sure. And that's still pretty much how I operate that. But each day was a focus, right? There would be something I'd focus on Tuesdays, something I'd focus on Wednesdays, same thing on Thursdays, and Fridays would be a flex day, um, that also at least once or twice a month I'd have what I'd call CEO days. And that meant me making sure that I focus on something that I just wanted to do, right? If it meant that I needed to get away for the day, then that would be it. And I would go plan a day with another uh, friend of mine, probably who works for themselves, and we would take off and go do something. Or maybe I would go, I remember one time running errands with my friend who had the stuff that she needed to take care of for her business. So I'm like, hey, I'll ride with you and run your errands with you. But I needed that break, right? Other times for CEO days, it could be me really sitting down and going deep on a project that I've been meaning to work on and hadn't really given the time or attention to. So my CEO days would get defined however I needed them, but it would be the matter of making sure that I have them. And over the years, those days have shifted the what I've done, whether it's an admin day or if it's a content day, and all of these different things. What's really mattered is me shifting to adjust to a schedule when my energy and capacity really couldn't match up. And the capacity part has really come into focus more over the last year or so. The energy part has definitely been there because I was dealing with some stuff where, having burnt out more times than I'd like to admit. And so the energy factor was always there. And the fact that literally, because I developed this chronic illness, I had to learn how to be flexible. I could have a perfectly great day planned full of recording or whatever, but if I had a edema flare up, that was out the window. I mean, that would literally be out the window because I would not be able to do that. And it would mean I would have to perhaps move my scheduling around, or if I had meetings of outside the house or whatever. So I've learned to adapt. It has also caused me, in some respects, to hide a little bit more than I should have, if I'm being honest. Yeah, because I was always afraid. Then there was this fear of like, well, what if this happens? Then, like, well, let me and hedge. So then that means not having the plan that the planner would normally have, which is crazy, right? That would just make leaving things quote wide open so I could, and calling it flexible was like, no, because now things aren't getting done, and I was losing time and space. So I always recommend that because that's such an easy trap to fall into. Um, to fall into that trap of really starting to hide and not name things, not name your time, not name your days, to be dedicated for something and to do whatever it is your long term goals are, to assign time and space to it. And that's really what planning is about. But you do have to be flexible because sometimes things may take longer than expected, or, oh my goodness, sometimes things get sped up and you're like, oh, wait, so you've got to, it's a matter of being prepared to go either way and be okay with catching up or moving a little bit faster. It's okay to be uncomfortable. I talk about that all the time. So for me, in more recent times, I've really leaned into it. I started doing this. I guess it's been a couple of years now. I'm trying to think, since like after my son graduated high school or something like that. But I started being more mindful and trying to leave my Fridays open for travel because we started, between getting ready for football games here at home. Then we started traveling for football games when my son started playing for college. And so I needed a little more flexibility around those time frames. And so I would do that. Like, so let's say I generally would not schedule meetings on Fridays anyways. It became very much a pretty firm not scheduling meetings or not allowing people to schedule on Fridays. I could schedule myself on a Friday. I would open it up or something like that, but it was not open for other people to schedule on. So that's one thing that I got a bat at that, down on, and even to the point where I schedule my Fridays to be kind of half days if possible, to leave me that flexibility. Even if I'm not right now like doing a lot of traveling, I know the things that I'm looking forward to do, and I don't want to have to adapt that part of the schedule again, right? Um, One of the things that I definitely always do, though, I am not a morning person. Anybody who's known me for any length of time knows I am not a morning person. Even when I had to be in the office, God help me, at 8 o'clock in the morning back in the day, no. It's like I did what I needed to do to be there, but like don't expect a whole lot more. Don't expect the big friendly face and all that. It's not going to happen. I'm going to need my big giant cup of coffee. I'm going to need some time to ease into things. So one of the things of being able to set my own schedule means I don't have to have early morning meetings if I don't want to. And guess what? I don't. And it becomes such that even some of my friends, when we're meeting, whether I'm meeting virtually or in person, and I'm like, hey, and they're like, yeah, no, no early morning stuff. Not if it can be helped. Now, granted, if there's someone else's meeting that's being hosted and I'm attending, I'll be mindful and respectful of that and I'll go, whatever. But then I'm also it's like, this means this is something I really, really want to attend or want or need to engage in or whatever, because I'm not deliberately setting myself up to show up for what is not my best time of the day. And all these people are like, oh, you got to get your day started. That does not work for me. I am much more of a let's ease into that day, ease into my mornings, do some reading, check some email, respond to some email, maybe doing some things that don't require me engaging with other people. That is a win. And so that's what I've just come to earn. And then my afternoons for sure is where I really like, lay into the creative work, especially if it requires like a lot of writing or putting things together, having conversations, all of that. And I will go later into the evening. That has always been the prime time for me, even when my kids were little. And so I would just be, massaging and working around it. But back then, it meant I would stay up late and do work. And it just, as I got older, I was like, yeah, me doing those proposals and all that stuff late, that's for the birds. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm still up late. I'm just not doing that kind of heavy brain work late into the evening unless it's some unusual reason to be doing so, a deadline more than likely. And even I have learned the discipline of backing it up because I just don't feel like fooling with it anymore. I think that's just some wisdom that comes with age. Um, so there's that. But my real point here is just to remember that even when you're working for an organization, you it may not seem like it, but generally you still have some leeway in some kind of way to set up when you'd like for certain things to happen, right? And I encourage you to do that. If you get the options of when to set certain meetings, then make them for the time that works for you, right? You got a team to lead, fine. You got to make all those accommodations. But everyone has a cycle of what things work well for them, especially if you're still caring for a family or, um, elders, or if you're not, but you have, let's say you're involved in some community service, like, make sure that you remain at the center of all of that, because the burnout happens when you start centering everybody else's needs, and then you realize you don't have any time or space left for yourself. And that is a very real possibility. Been there, done that several times over. And so, for me, I ease into my days. I adapt my schedule. When I have people, if I'm giving people the opportunity to schedule, they have windows for certain things. So if I'm talking to, setting times for chatting up with new people I haven't met before, I generally try to save those for my networking Wednesdays, because that's what networking Wednesdays are for me, right? An opportunity to connect with people. So I will do a lot of that work on those days. My clients, I will work with them on Tuesdays and Thursdays in general, but I'm flexible for them because some of them don't have the flexibility at work to engage in our coaching sessions long term. So I will have evening hours once or twice a week where I make it available, but it's scheduled and it's not an open time, right? Everybody's not just jumping in there. I'm scheduling those specific clients for that opportunity, while also leaving things open for me to have meetings, to go out to lunch, to have lunch meetings, coffees with people, all of that, knowing that I just massage what that looks like if I have the input to make that happen. And the flexibility also comes in recognizing, like, hey, everyone doesn't have my schedule, doesn't keep my schedule, so I have to be mindful and respectful of theirs as well, right? So that's that thing. That's the plan that I'm working from now, and why it allows me to really be able to focus in. Because when I was like sick for 2 weeks, oh my gosh, it just seemed like it was never going to end. But I had to be functional because there was a campaign I was leading for one of the boards that I served on, and then I had my commitment to myself for my YouTube videos to continue, and so I'm like, what do I need to do? So let me conserve my time and energy into certain pockets. And I would do that. I would double up where I needed to with my video time to leave me, another 24, 36 hours break, and being able to massage it and knowing that, oh my gosh, I felt so good when I opened up my calendar and I was sitting down doing my planning for the evening, prepping for the week, and I looked and I was like, but I did what I needed to do. Was there more that I would have liked to? Sure. But I did what I needed to do without missing a beat. And that makes me super, super happy, super excited, because it means I'm finally listening to me, right? And what works for myself, even when I'm not feeling well, making those adjustments and letting other things go, so that I could focus on getting healthy while also honoring whatever obligations I have outstanding and then keep it moving. So I was able to start the week fresh and move along and knowing that I'm I'm on track. And guess what? Even if I wasn't, it would still be okay because I know now how to make the adjustments to pull back, to give more, but also always honoring the time and space that I need to focus on my own personal needs as well as professional ones. So there we are. That's it. Once again, my name is Patricia, here to talk all things leadership, empowerment, relationship building, being purposeful about who you are, how you're engaging, especially for women of color who are leading in their careers, leading in their businesses, and need the reminder that not only can you move forward on those things, but you also can move forward with honoring the needs that you have for yourself and taking good care of yourself because, truly your health is your wealth. And a reminder to hit the thumbs up and subscribe so that we can continue to share these conversations with others. Remember today and always to celebrate you and who you are and all your greatness. It doesn't have to be big things for it to be worthy of celebration. Okay? Take care and we'll talk again soon. Bye.